Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva
and this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder.
and Liz.
It's so funny. Every time I say, hey, Twisted listeners, and then I say, this is Twisted Listers, in my head I go, did you say, hi, hey, Twisted Listers, or did you say listeners? Every single time we do the intro,
It's
I'm
a
like,
tongue twister.
yeah, I'm like, did you fuck it up, Cindy? Did you?
Yeah, it's
I
a real
never know. It is.
tongue twisted listener. Tongue twister.
Oh, tongue
Oh.
twisted listeners. It's a lot. Okay.
Well,
Anyway,
yeah.
guys, we are on a tight timeline trying to get you all your content and
Yes.
live our lives and do all of our extras that we have to do.
She's a busy working lady.
Oh, it's been crazy. Anyway, so we're just gonna get right down to it. This is part 2 of Amish murders.
Amish.
One of our dear friends who I'm gonna try to get their podcast. They sent me like a podcast, like an ad for their podcast. It's called Life and Death on the Fringe. It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. I started listening to it, and sometimes your friends have podcasts, and you're like, oh, I'll give them a listen, and then you're like, oh, this is fine. I might listen to it sometimes, like, because I should. But theirs, I was like, dude, I would fucking listen to this all the time. So anyway, they are 505 Resin Works. They've been friends of ours for a really long time. And they started this, and it's about people who live and die on the fringe of society. And so they cover cases that really need to be covered, that really need to be talked about.
Great.
So if I have time, I'm going to put in their ad today. If I don't have time, then I will do it later. But at least I mentioned it this time, right? Like,
yeah, you just did an ad a little bit, so
yeah. Anyway, okay, so there it is. Let's get to it. I went first last time. You go first this time.
Yeah, and I have a real fun one. I mean, they're all terrible because it's murders, but like you're gonna, you'll make sounds and be like, ah,
oh great,
this is insane.
Yay.
It's okay, and you know it a little bit. I think you looked it up. It's the case of Eli Weaver.
Oh yeah.
And last time I did the case of Eli Stutzman, who was from the Amish community of Apple Creek, Ohio. And this is Eli Weaver from Apple Creek, Ohio. So it's very strange that there's, of the very short list of Amish murders out there, 2 of them are dudes named Eli from Apple Creek. And it's a very small community.
Also,
I think
the last
Eli Weaver's later.
Oh, okay. Well, the last one you talked about, the first one that you did, Mr. Stutzman, he married a woman whose last name was Gingrich. And the first Amish man to ever be convicted of murder was Edward Gingrich, who's also on our list, but we didn't cover him. So
there's definitely some shared names, communities, probably from the same family.
Yes.
And Eli Stutzman was like in the 84, 85, and he had left the Amish community when he did his murders, unlike this guy. So this is Eli Weaver. Okay.
Anyway.
So
all the names.
This is 2009. Eli is 29. He's married to wife Barbara, who's 30. They got married pretty young in 1999, so they would have been like, I think, 19 and 20-ish. And they have 5 children. So the Amish are, reproducing quickly. Poor Barbara. She's been pregnant like nonstop. Eli owns a hunting store, and everyone has great things to say about Barbara specifically. She was a kind person, loving mother, stuff like that. Nothing but good stuff. Typical Amish lady.
I was going to say that's like
mother.
Yeah, it's a very Amish description right there. Like I think that's the whole point of the Amish.
Yeah, there's not like a lot of Amish women who are casually going around and then people are like, oh, she was cutthroat businesswoman. Like, that's not their game,
Right.
That's not what they're doing.
Right.
They're just churning butter and chilling, Eli, however, has a whole other thing going on because he really wants to live as an English person, meaning live outside the Amish. And he actually twice leaves to go be with other women that he was cheating on his wife with. But he returns a few months later each time because he reportedly was just too overwhelmed by like the outside world, which is also a thing that I find really interesting on my favorite shows, Breaking Amish, Return to Amish on TLC. There's so many times where like a fresh Amish person who's never been outside goes out partying one night and has like a nervous breakdown. Like they can't handle it.
It's so crazy to think about that. And like I was gonna say, like, well, if he wants to be in the English world, why did he not stay during Rumspringa? But I think you've just answered. It's probably a lot more complicated than that.
This wasn't his official like outing. This was like him just cheating.
Well, right, but I mean, he had tasted the outside world and obviously couldn't handle it, and then keeps wanting more but not being able to handle it. So it's like a weird.
Yeah, he likes certain aspects of it, but he can't stick with it.
Yeah, it's like a weird life crisis.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he obviously his marriage is in great shape because of his activities, and when he's living blah, 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 when he's living at home with his Amish family, he maintains a very active second life, basically, because he has a secret laptop, a secret cell phone, and he's active on online chat rooms, just basically trying to hook up with as many women to cheat with as possible.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't get like excommunicated from the Amish community.
He's keeping it pretty secret, I guess. Yeah. In these chat rooms, as everyone knows who Googles his case for 1 second, he gave himself the screen name Amish Stud. Yeah. And one of his little profiles on these websites had the tagline, quote, "Who wants to do an Amish guy with the number 2?
Oh my goodness.
To do.
That's really bad.
Obviously, it's really bad. Obviously, Eli's antics, are creating a bad home life. Barbara lamented to many people and to a counselor that she, was really sad that her husband is fucking like not into their marriage. Apparently, he once was. He was once better. She said to a counselor reportedly, quote, "Where did my friend love trustworthy husband go to? He hates me to the core," which is like really sad.
Wow, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
So she knows it, and she's just like,
yeah. You don't get divorced in Amish land.
You do not.
No. According to a Mennonite neighbor who had befriended Barbara, Eli also was like controlling and abusive to Barbara. He withheld money from her, even for basic shit for the kids and like groceries and things the family needed. And he had lots of money because his gun store was very successful, his hunting store, but he just did this to control her.
Okay.
As a form of abuse. He also reportedly physically abused Barbara, but in her community, in the Amish community, like literally there's several Amish people that were interviewed from this community and they said, oh yeah, she would never have been able to report it because immediately the attitude would have been like, well, what did you do to deserve to get hit? There's no culture of like domestic violence being bad. So she had no choice but to put up with it.
That's fucked up. And it's so weird that they're such like peace-loving, sweet people, but then they also are like fuck women.
The misogyny and the homophobia are still like real thick.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's still pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
If you want to be like peace-loving and hippie, but like without any of the misogyny or homophobia, go be a Quaker. That's a good alternative for you.
Yeah, they really mean it. They don't have qualifiers on that. They really just are like actually love everybody, which I think is nice.
Just a little ad for Quakerism.
If you're looking into something like that.
If you're looking to, I come from a long line of Quakers. Did you know that? I come from the first Quakers that like ever came here. That's
fucking crazy.
Yeah, they're actually pretty rad, and they refused to like murder Native Americans, and they got burnt at the stake for it. It's pretty cool.
Damn.
Side note.
Okay.
Anyway. Back to Eli here. In addition to his tech kind of online secret life, he was having tons of affairs. I'm sure some of whom he met in real life and some from the internet. He was having an affair with a woman named Barbara Raber, who, if you've seen her photo, honestly, try to picture it, Cindy. This woman, the woman Barbara Raber, that's Eli Weaver's affair partner here. She's 39.
Oh.
She's 39 in that photo. I just want you to take a moment.
Wait, in the photo on the Instagram?
She's 39.
Oh, what the fuck? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to elicit out of you. Yes, correct.
I am feeling myself right now.
She is a rough 39.
At almost 41, I feel real good. Real good.
It's a rough 39. I think having a lack of teeth does quite a lot.
Why is this the woman that he's like, yep, her? I mean, not to be, but like, I don't feel bad saying that this
she's
woman
not
has.
the only one. He's having many affairs.
No, but this woman has
But yeah.
obviously has a love affair with both Eli and meth. So I mean, she's got like she's a drug user,
It's
which is terrible and makes me sad, but also she's on the list. So
it's a rough 39.
it's a rough 39.
She had been yeah, she looks like this older woman, but she's actually only a few years older than Eli.
Yeah.
So she had been having this affair with him on and off for 6 years. She was actually a married mother of 3 herself, and a Mennonite a Mennonite basically like very similar to Amish, but a lot of them can have modern technologies, but they're like similar in their belief systems.
If you'd like to know more about this, just go back to the first half of this and listen to my story, because that involves a Mennonite. Yeah.
Yeah. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, so she's a Mennonite who acted as a cab driver, which apparently Mennonites often did to serve the Amish community, because occasionally, being Amish, you still need to get to a handful of places that you can't get to with your fucking buggy, you know? So occasionally they use this service. So Eli would hook up with Barbara in her car, reportedly, in his barn. Those are their hookup spots. She also got him his secret laptop and cell phone, so she's kind of facilitating his little second life here.
Okay. So she is in deep with him, like more than some of the other. Okay.
Yes. So boop, 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 boop. I'm doing a classic diva thing here where I jump into the murder with no lead up.
It's a little lead up. You've enjoyed the lead up. It's there.
Okay, but it's still going to be a rough.
No, I know. You have your way. I appreciate it.
June 2nd, 2009, Barbara Weaver, the other Barbara, the wife, is found dead from a gunshot wound to the chest in her bed.
Oof.
It is never a question of suicide, because her gun there was no gun anywhere.
Okay, so couldn't have been that.
No. And she was actually found by one of their children, which is fucked up. Little spoonful
awful.
of trauma for them.
Yeah.
The child went to the neighbor's house to have them call 911, and when investigators got there, they found no sign of robbery, and there was like cash and like obvious stuff you would steal lying around, and there was no sign of forced entry. So they're like, okay, check, whatever. They obviously go to talk to Eli, but when they do, they find that he had a convenient alibi of he was fishing with friends that day at the exact time of the murder. But as they look into things, they're like, okay, this guy is still shady as fuck. Let's not like get rid of him as a suspect entirely, because he's cheating, right? He's like crazy behavior. And people who know them were like, yeah, he's involved with Barbara, this Mennonite cab driver. So it's not like a secret. So they're like, okay, let's talk to Barbara. And they also start talking to a bunch of the women that he dated on the side, his like affair people. And when they talk to one of them, they actually are able to find his secret cell phone number, because they say, can you text Eli for us, whatever? And she texts that number. So she calls him.
Okay.
One of the two.
Okay.
When they get that number, they pull his phone records, and they find all these messages with Barbara Raber, and they find also the fact that it's registered to her, and they're like, that's interesting as hell.
Right. Like, why does he have a phone that belongs to her?
Yeah. And looking into Barbara, they find that she actually has no alibi. She's like, I was at home. And they're like, cool, you have no alibi.
Yeah. Good job, guy.
Yeah. Boop, boop, boop. She and Eli are both arrested for the murder of his wife, and I will tell you why in a moment here.
Okay.
The phone records are going to be kind of the smoking gun.
Yeah.
The prosecution argues that Eli killed his wife so he could be free of his family life and pawn the kids off on her sister. And he wanted to keep his Amish business and his like secret double life, but just have like the kids be dealt with by someone else. That was his goal. But he also wants to be a widower because that's okay in the Amish world versus you can't get divorced, right? Investigators report also at the trial that Eli had been going around asking all the different women he was sleeping with if they would kill his wife. So he's arrested because they're like, there's like 400 witnesses coming forward that this guy was asking everyone he met for like 5 minutes if they would kill his wife.
Just put an ad out in the Amish paper.
Yeah, so he's openly talking about his desire to have her killed with these women, and it was only Barbara Raver apparently that heard this pitch and was like, "Yeah, absolutely,
That sounds
can't
like
count
a
me in."
good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So in these extensive messages between the two phones and their text records, the two talk about different ways to kill Barbara Weaver, including the many different ways they could poison her. They finally, of course, landed on just shooting her with Eli's rifle, which I'll get into the details of in a second,
Simple and
of what they
effective.
actually did.
Mm-hmm.
But investigators find that Barbara Raber's, two Barbaras here is confusing,
Yeah.
but a 39-year-old beauty, Barbara Raber, searched.
So mean. We're so terrible.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Fuck her.
She searched, yeah, but also fuck her. That's true.
Yeah.
She searched poisoning in different ways online in 840 different searches.
Wow. Okay.
But didn't even go with the poisoning, which is like, okay.
I know. After all that,
here's an amazing text exchange that they found that will make your head explode between the two here. So Barbara Raber says, quote, "I thought if we could get that fly poison stuff in a spice cupcake, she might not detect it."
Ew.
Eli replies, "Maybe you could blow up the house?"
Oh my god! So he's a brilliant man. On top of all,
it gets worse. It gets worse because she asks, "What about your kids?"
Oh, right.
And he replies, "The kids will go to heaven because they're innocent."
What a piece of dog shit, dude! Just like totally fine murdering his children.
He's like, "Fuck my kids." He's like, "I don't even care." Like
fuck them kids. Wow.
Yep.
Official. Yep. Wow. Yep. What a fucking dickhead.
Yeah. Yes. So when she's first interviewed, Barbara's official story was that she fell in love with Eli, was having this affair. He persuaded her they could only be together if she killed his wife. So she kind of paints the picture of he was totally manipulating her.
Mm-hmm.
The night of the murder, Eli gave her detailed instructions on how to get to the house, where to park, and told her that the door would be unlocked, left it unlocked for her. And then when she expressed that she didn't want to do it, of course, she was having these doubts. Mm-hmm. He encouraged her and kind of egged her on to go kill his wife. So lovely. With Barbara's husband's shotgun, in fact, she snuck into the Weaver family home and shot Barbara as she slept in her bed. She claims she only meant to scare her with the gun.
I'm sure.
And it went off accidentally, which I'm like, hard no.
It went off accidentally after I researched poisoning and discussed murdering the entire family in an explosion.
Yeah, and also it went off accidentally at her face. Like, okay.
Right. Get out of here. Come the fuck on.
Yeah. At trial, Barbara recanted this story, though, and claimed that it was actually Eli who shot his wife before leaving for that fishing trip at 3:30 in the morning, which, footnote, little thing here, fuck any hobby that makes me get up at 3 a.m. Like,
yeah. No.
Absolutely not.
I have learned the only thing that I'm okay. Well, there's two things I'm okay getting up with in the middle of the night for. My kid, my cat. That's it.
Or like if I have to go to an airport, that's okay. If I have to go to a really early flight, that's kind of vacation. Yeah.
Okay. I feel that.
Yeah. Oh, what happened to my Zoom camera here? I'm like focused on my junk in the back of my house.
Weird.
There I go.
There we go. There's your face again. That was weird.
All right. Cindy doesn't want to look at the Christmas wreath. Okay.
It was a nice wreath, I'll say.
September 2009, Eli agreed to plead guilty for the charge of just complicity to commit murder and testify against Barbara. So Eli gets a good deal here.
Oh.
He testifies that he conspired. He admits to talking about it with Barbara and leaving the door unlocked for her and some of her story he confirms. Before he went on the fishing trip that morning, he then said she met up with him afterwards and told him in detail about killing his wife. And I do believe his story, actually. For what it's worth. It seems like Barbara would have done this. Like, she's all in.
Yeah, she's got that look to her that she's down.
Issues.
She's down to shoot somebody with a rifle.
And Eli adds a lot of detail to his story too, saying like Barbara asked him how to clean the gun to make it look like it hadn't been fired. He goes into depth about their conversation, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So they're found guilty, and Eli for conspiracy gets 15 years to life.
Okay.
And Barbara gets 23 years to life for aggravated murder. She's not eligible for parole until 2032.
Okay.
From prison, Eli does get a personal ad printed in an Amish newsletter, which I find very interesting that that's A, possible,
Yeah.
and B, that the Amish newsletter will allow that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, me too.
But apparently he does that, and he wants women to be his pen pal. I guess Amish women, which like they're not going to write letters to prison. You're going the wrong demographic here.
Yeah,
you should
you're
go
doing
on
the wrong thing.
Go to the prison pen pal site.
Yeah. Oof.
So it's interesting. He still kind of clearly considers himself Amish, even though he's in prison.
And a playboy. He still considers himself a stud.
Yeah. He's still trying to find new ladies. He's like addicted to it. He's an Amish prison playboy now.
That's terrible.
That's a different like his username now, Amish prison playboy. He will be eligible for parole starting next summer, in summer 2024.
Wow.
So we'll see if he gets it.
How old?
And Barbara's
He'll be like,
he was 29 in 2009, so he must be like
pretty old. Not old.
In his 40s.
Yeah, he's like my-ish age.
Yeah, he's not that old.
Older than me.
He could still murder some people if he wanted to.
Yeah. For sure.
His and Barbara's 5 kids were in the custody of Barbara's sister, their aunt, and I just found one like passing note that they're doing well, so hopefully that's true. But that's good. Still being Amish. There's a Lifetime movie that was actually just made this year called Amish Stud, the Eli Weaver story.
I kept seeing that pop up whenever I was trying to research.
I think it's kind of a bummer they called it Amish Stud and cast like a good looking guy, because I'm like sure he loves that. I'm sure he's like that's his dream.
Yeah, it's also completely inaccurate.
It is not accurate. The guy looks a little better. But so yeah, go look at the Lifetime movie shots because they're pretty fucking funny. And the movie is reportedly based on the book A Killing in Amish Country, Sex, Betrayal, and a Cold-Blooded Murder by the best-selling authors Greg Olson and Rebecca Morris, which came out this year as well. And by the way, I think a couple years ago, but Greg Olson also wrote the book about Eli Stutzman. So I think he's carved a little niche for himself as an Amish true crime author.
Wait, what?
Greg Olson, this true crime author, also wrote a book about Eli Stutzman.
I thought you said he was an Amish, like he was Amish. And I was like, I didn't hear that.
No, okay. Amish. He's an author who writes about Amish true crime.
Amish true crime. Okay, I was like, that guy's not Amish, diva. Sorry.
No.
No, it's okay. I misunderstood you.
So that's the case of Amish stud Eli Weaver.
The Amish stud Eli Weaver, who is not a stud at all.
No. And I mean, really, any of those beards that wrap around the chin kind of takes away your stud quality.
What I find really interesting is so many of the Amish men with that beard have like just the scraggliest fucking beard. It's like, why do none of you have like nice full beards? There are men out there who can grow a nice full beard, even if it's just like a neck beard, essentially. It's a really interesting thing to me that they all have the same,
it's true.
It's really
a weird. Weak beard. Yeah.
Some of the elders I've seen with like rad beards, I'm like, all right, that's
when
nice
they have
beard.
The ones that are full that come out like straight down, those guys tend to have like more robust.
Yeah, so why do these motherfuckers have these like shitty little? I don't understand it. I feel like all of the Amish men that I'm discussing, like they have that same beard. And it's like, why is your beard like this? Oh yeah, I'm looking at pictures of the guy who plays him in the movie. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a bit of a jump.
A bit? This guy is like super. He looks like Wolverine. Like, what the fuck? He looks like fucking Hugh Jackman. Like,
it's like how they cast Henry VIII in The Tudors is like hot, and I'm like,
well, that's necessary because you don't want to watch that shit with somebody who's not good looking, you know?
Right. No, I know, but they always, and it's true also in like every investigation discovery thing. I always crack up because I'll go from the mugshot to like the reenactment, and the reenactment dude or lady is always really hot, and they'll flash like some crazy meth person.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's a jump. Okay.
Oh, fucking hilarious. Okay. Anyway, all right. Moving on to mine. Big shout out, speaking of investigation discovery, to I think it's ID who does Murder in Amish Country. That series.
Yes.
Yeah. I read about this story and I just kept reading the same like 10 talking points over and over. And then I finally found that there was an episode of this. And I watched it and I got a huge chunk of information from there that is horrifying that I completely would have overlooked. So shout out to that show. I watched it for this. I am going to talk about, where is it? Samuel Borntreger. Now,
Okay.
this takes place in, well, a couple of different times. We're going to start in January 2016 in Barron County, Kentucky, where it's January 2016, and Samuel Borntreger, a local Amish cabinet maker and recently ordained Amish minister, goes to the police and tells them a crazy ass thing. He says to them that nearly exactly 10 years earlier, he had killed his first wife, Anna Borntreger. Police are
Okay.
like, what are you talking about? Now, Samuel and Anna had been married, and Anna did die. And police are like, well, how did you kill her? Because, it's listed as natural causes. And he said to them, well, I did this by poisoning her with antifreeze. And when that didn't work fast enough, I used battery acid. And he tells,
Whoa.
yeah, not cool. And he
That's
tells
gnarly.
them, yeah, and he's basically like, I just have to get this off my chest. Now, what's interesting is I think that he thinks that he can just get it off his chest, and then because he's part of the Amish community, he gets to like go home. So, and at the beginning, he did get to go home, because they were like, well, we have to look into this. We can't charge you with just a confession. So, a little bit about Samuel and Anna. They were married in Missouri when they were in their early 20s. And in fact, I believe Anna was only 20 when they married. Over the next 6 years, they had 5 children. And Anna had been somewhat ill for the duration of their marriage. And I think this is probably due to her being pregnant the entire fucking time. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I don't know how it was for you, but my entire pregnancy, I was like, I feel like I'm going to die. So,
You definitely, I would feel like you need a break between
yeah,
them.
yeah.
You need a breather to take a beat.
Yeah, it seems like she had about 3 to 5 months between each child, which is insane.
Oof. Oof.
Yes. So now we're in late December 2006, about 6 years into their marriage. And Anna becomes very, very ill in November, and December. Now, the Amish didn't really go to traditional doctors, as we've kind of discussed. So, being ill like she didn't have a lot of options for treatment. But what she did have was her husband, Samuel, to care for her. And
Okay.
boy, did he. According to his confession, Samuel began poisoning her with antifreeze, um, and then he and then moved on to the battery acid. And when they asked, why did you do this? He said, well, the devil must have been in me. So there you go. Yeah,
Okay.
he saw his opportunity with the fact that she was always kind of ill, and he just ran with it. Okay, sorry. I'm like reading my
That's
own
good.
notes and being like, this is
This
so
guy's
good.
beard. This guy's beard is terrible.
Yeah,
So.
it's another one of those terrible beards. Okay,
Ugh.
sorry. As I'm rereading my
Okay.
notes, I'm like, this story is so fucked up. I'm like, you have to say it out loud right now, Cindy. You're telling the story. So, okay, here we go.
I'm
Sorry.
just taking the empty space up to tell everyone that his beard is
Yeah, I'm so
bad.
sorry. So we'll come back to the whole battery acid thing, because it's really horrifying.
Okay.
But when Anna died just shy of her 27th birthday, the medical examiner concluded that she had died of liver failure and listed her death as being from natural causes, just saying she had a weak liver. She didn't
Mm,
really have like Western medicine, so she died.
right.
Samuel was, the mourning widower. People in the community felt terrible for him. But less than a year later, Samuel remarried, which isn't super weird in that
Mm,
community, but just something to note. And he and his new wife, Mary, moved to Kentucky and had 4 more kids. Now, police had this confession, but like I said, they didn't have any proof, and they needed that, as in Missouri and Kentucky, as with a lot of places. A confession by itself isn't gonna get you a conviction. All he has to do is say, "I was just kidding," and if they don't have any extra evidence, that's kind of the end of things.
yeah.
So they decide, okay, we're going to reach out to police in Missouri as well as the family and friends of Anna to find out more. As we know, the Amish do not like to talk to the police. They do not like to interact with the outside English world if they can avoid it. But pardon me, they were able to interview a minister for the Amish church in Missouri who said that Samuel and Anna's marriage was a good one. Anna's friends also said, basically Samuel hung the moon as far as Anna was concerned. She was just completely in love with him. And there are photos of Anna's autopsy that police also looked over, showing that her liver was indeed inflamed and her skin was yellow and jaundiced at the time of her death.
Those are all signs of the poisoning.
Of the liver.
Right.
Well, not the poisoning,
Yeah.
because antifreeze and battery acid would have actually harmed her kidneys, which were
Oh,
seemingly okay according to the original autopsy.
okay.
So they're kind of like, okay, we don't have proof that he did what he says he did, but we're going to keep digging. They just kind of were like, we don't trust, like, we believe that this guy did this, so we're going to keep digging, right?
Yeah.
So they convince the minister and the Amish community to allow Anna's body to be exhumed, which is not a thing in the
No,
Amish
that's not,
community.
they don't do that.
They do not do that. So police exhume her body. They promise, we'll give her the traditional burial. Again, we will treat her with the utmost respect. And, they agree. When they do this autopsy, they don't find anything. So they're like kind of stuck. So they're still thinking that Samuel probably killed her, but they can't prove it. Things are kind of at a standstill. But then Eli, another Eli here, Eli Borntreger,
It's the number one most
Samuel's,
popular Amish name.
it really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Samuel's brother comes forward with some bombshell information. Also, again, it's super unlike the Amish to come forward to talk to police, to interact with the English world, but he really loved Anna and he wanted justice for her. Apparently,
Okay.
everybody loved Anna. She was a lovely, wonderful woman, completely dedicated to her husband and children. Just a really lovely, lovely person. So he comes forward with information for the police, and Eli says that Samuel and Anna brought in a woman named Mary to help with the kids while Anna recovered, because Anna was expected to recover from childbirth, have more babies, do all of her chores. And when you're that sick, it's hard to do that. So they brought in this woman named Mary to help while Anna recovers. And Mary ends up working alone with Samuel a lot. So instead of really helping Mary, she's kind of helping out Samuel, working working in the garage helping him, or in the wood shop helping him make cabinets. I think we all know where this is going, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So as far as we know, which is only as far as we know, the relationship wasn't like super untoward compared to what we're used to, but there was enough flirting and enough inappropriate behavior between the two that Samuel was actually excommunicated from the church for 3 months and had to leave the community.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow. Okay, that's funny that happened, but then my guy was like
He's
just
just like
cruising.
chilling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was kicked out for 3 months and had to go live elsewhere and was, just treated as an outsider. Within 3 weeks of his coming back from his little excommunication, Anna was dead. And
Mhm.
this Mary, the Mary who was at their house helping out, quote unquote, is absolutely the Mary that he married very shortly after Anna's death. It was
Okay,
actually less than 6 months. In fact, it was between 4 and 6 months later.
gotcha.
And they later found out that Mary was about a month pregnant when they got married, which is very, very forbidden in the church. So now
Ooh,
police find out this information and they are convinced that Samuel killed Anna, and they wonder if Mary was in on it. But again, they still don't have proof. They just have this story from Eli, this backstory that shows motive. So now they have the confession, they have the motive, but they still need proof. So they interview Mary and they realize this woman was not involved. She didn't have any idea what happened. And they also learn some fucking insane shit. So they're reaching out to the Amish community, asking anybody to come forward with information. And again, they don't typically, but in this case, a lot of people did come forward. Now, as I mentioned, the Amish don't believe in traditional medicine. And weirdly, I learned they go to chiropractors within their community. So they go to
okay.
chiropractors for their medicine, which I didn't know that, but that's a very common thing in the Amish community.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Anna was going to one regularly to help with her liver problems, and this gave Samuel the idea to start his own quote unquote practice as a chiropractor. So what he would do, this is so insane, he would invite women from the community to come to him for quote unquote care, right? Women came forward, which again, very strange, they came forward to the police and said some crazy shit. They said that once they were in his quote unquote care, Samuel would put them on a fucking rack develop, like a medieval style rack.
No, no.
Tie them up and then stretch them on the rack.
Okay,
Like,
this is like not exactly where I thought we were going.
did you see this coming? I did not see this
No,
coming.
no. I thought,
Yeah, he would strap
uh,
them, their arms and legs, and pull these straps until they would like
oh
dislocate their
my
shoulders.
God.
Yeah, he dislocated their shoulders. He ripped their clothing. He like permanently injured some of these women. Yeah.
Wow,
Hmm.
that's really something.
Yes. And Mary, his
Wow.
own wife, came to him for quote unquote treatment. And he told her that her uterus was out of place and that he could help her get it back into place. And
No, don't move the ear.
yep. He basically uh he basically you know, had sex with her, like tricked her into it, which is
Ugh,
horrible. Hmm.
okay.
Yeah. He would also put quote unquote medicine on these women's chests using his bare hands to rub it in.
Mhm.
So just really fucked up, like sexual, weird torture.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. And totally terrifying. And now he's just like a minister with like 9 kids. He's like totally,
Yeah.
totally chill.
Just sexual assault and like torture are his hobbies. So
Yes. And he did this with no pushback from the community because they're just women and nobody cared.
yeah. Oh my God.
Crazy. So now police are like absolutely sure that he murdered Anna. They're going to start collecting more evidence about this shit and try to charge him for this as well, you know.
Yeah.
And so they dig in really deep and they really start investigating. And they find out that at one point Anna ended up in an English hospital because she was just so
Ugh.
sick. And the records there show that she had Tylenol poisoning, not battery
Oh.
acid or antifreeze.
Oh, wow.
And so now they go back to, look over the autopsy. They are kind of taking this into consideration and they find that Samuel was using this to kill her and that he
Mm.
intentionally didn't mention the Tylenol because I think he was trying to admit to her murder and not get in trouble for it, essentially, which the whole thing is
Yeah.
just fucking weird. So as soon as police present this new Tylenol evidence to Samuel, which does align with her inflamed liver and her liver failure death, he clams up and gets a lawyer. So he realizes what's going to happen here
Yeah.
and gets scared. And the reality still is that they didn't have much of a case without his confessions because all they have is like this medical record for the Tylenol poisoning, the inflamed liver. It's not a sure thing. So they decide we're going to exhume her body again and we're going to take samples of her hair and fingernails to show the timelines of the poisoning, not just for the Tylenol, but they're hoping to find the battery acid and the antifreeze as well to show he was poisoning her to kind of strengthen the case that he was also poisoning her with Tylenol, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they bring in a bishop from the I have different names for all of these, so I don't know what is what for the
Oh,
honest
that
community.
happens to me all the time.
Yeah, but they said it's a bishop to talk to Samuel because what they say to the bishop is like, if we have to exhume her again, obviously you guys don't want that. If we have to interview the children, if we have to interview the community, you guys don't want that. So this bishop comes and talks to Samuel and convinces him to plead guilty to spare his community, spare putting them through all of this.
Yeah.
And finally Samuel agrees to do this because it was a man in power asking him to do it and he just decided to play along, I guess. So he gets 25 years in prison, I believe, for second-degree murder. He has to serve at least 22 years before he can be considered for release. He'll only be in his like early 60s, I think, which is fucking crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he gets a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So I also wanted before I finish this, I wanted to talk about how he injected the battery acid into poor Anna because I really want to drive home what a sadistic piece of shit this guy is.
Oh my God.
So he was giving her the antifreeze in her food, but because Anna loved and trusted him completely, he was able to inject the battery acid into her rectum.
No.
Yep. Yep. And he
What?
even
Why did she let him do that? I think
because
he
she
was like
didn't,
medicine or
yeah,
something.
she didn't know it was battery acid. She just
Oh
trusted her
God.
husband. Yeah, she trusted
Oh
him.
my God.
And he even talked about how badly it would burn his hands if he would get it on him, but had no compassion for what he was doing to her because he's such a
Oh
piece of
wow,
shit.
but he dares to complain
Mm-hmm.
like this is dangerous for him.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So there it is.
Wow.
Really fucking fucked up. Yeah, that's the story. So
Wow.
anyway, all right. This was a little bit of a quickie, guys, but I think the stories are
Well,
punchy. Packed
yeah, quick
packed a
and
punch
punchy.
each. Yes.
What are we doing for our next list, Cindy?
I did not think of anything, but there's one it's a simple one. It's an easy out, but it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Okay.
I've been wanting it's just another location. I've been wanting
Okay.
to do Murders of New Mexico.
Oh, I actually think
Mhm.
that's a good one.
I do
That's a good
too.
one.
I'm not just
Um,
randomly picking states like Ohio, although there's some good ones in Ohio. But I chose this a while back and have just been kind of sitting on it for when I'm stuck because, these kind of lists are always there. But I think
well,
we're
New
gonna get
Mexico, like there's weird shit in
there's
New
real
Mexico.
weird shit. Having spent some time, not a lot of time, but enough time there to be like, there's weird shit here. Yeah, it's we should
It's got Florida energy that people don't realize.
I didn't want to say it, but that's exactly what I was thinking. So yeah. So that's what
It's
we'll
true.
do. We'll do that.
Okay.
We'll do Murders of New Mexico. It'll be a good
Sounds good.
time for everyone. Thanks everybody for listening. I don't know what else can we say. Anything?
No.
That's it.
Okay.
We're in the mid-holiday slump here, so hope everybody's
Yeah.
enjoying the winter months and relaxing, getting a little time off from whatever you're normally having to do. Thanks again for listening, and until the next one,
Stay.
off our
Yes.
lists. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.